Now let me show you from my own experience what I know about this law. I can waste power in the world of Caesar. We're doing it by the billions every year with our little war and all the nonsense we have in the world. This power you can't waste. You can misuse it, but you can't waste it. I can misuse it every moment of time by imagining unlovely things about people, unlovely things about myself. And I can use it hatefully. Well, I can't waste it. I'll show you why you can't waste it. One night, many, many years ago, I suddenly became aware of two beings. I am the one perceiving them. So there are three, but I am the perceiver. Here above me stands the most beautiful woman imaginable, an angel. An angel of beauty and of everything that was lovely. And below me, the most monstrous thing that man could ever conceive. Covered in hair, like an ape, but it could speak. It spoke gutturally. I looked at it, then it looked at me, and then it pointed to this beautiful angelic being, and it called this woman Mother. Well, I was so annoyed with this monstrous thing that I pummeled it. It gloated. It loved violence. It fed on violence. Every time I was violent, it became stronger. And this beautiful thing, glowing, but this one is calling it Mother. And suddenly, as I am beating this thing, I realize, well, this is the embodiment of all of my misspent energy. As this one is the embodiment and personification of every noble thought I've ever entertained. I looked at this thing. I had no one with whom I could swear. I felt a compassion I have never known before. I looked at this monstrous thing and realized it is but the result of my own misused energy. It never should have been given birth. And I say to myself, I will redeem you if it takes me eternity. I pledged myself to redeem it. Do you know what happened? At that very moment before my eyes, the whole thing withered. That monstrous thing, the embodiment of power, horrible looking thing, it all got smaller and smaller and smaller and left no trace of ever having been present. But as it got smaller and smaller and disappeared, the energy returned to me. I felt infinite power. I felt like without anything, the power returned to me. It wasn't wasted. It was misused, but not lost. Nothing is lost in all my holy mountain. So you can't lose the power. You can misuse the power, but you can't lose it. But you'll confront it one day in a monstrous thing like that. And you'll do exactly what I did. You won't wait to redeem him. At the very moment that you pledge yourself and you mean it, I'll redeem you if it takes me eternity. At that moment, that monstrous thing withers, gets smaller and smaller, and this one glows. It becomes radiant like a star. She is the embodiment and the permanent personification, getting ever greater, of your own noble, wonderful thoughts. Every lovely act of yours feeds her. Every ignoble act of yours feeds him. And they walk with you. This one whispers the lovely things, encouraging you to be noble. And this one whispers the violent things. If you are at the crossroads as to what you should do, this one wants to be fed. He can only feed on violence. And this one can only feed on the noble, lovely thoughts of man. And man creates them. You see your own creation, and it's all the same power of your own wonderful human imagination. From then on, you know where you are. You are a creative power. And you go out to change everything in your world to make it conform to something lovelier. And you don't do it on the outside, you do it on the inside. You do it all in your imagination. Imagination is God, and there is no other God. His name is I am, forever and forever and forever. That's God. And yet when you do meet the personification of your own imagination, you see a man. And that man is infinite love. You will also meet him in another garment, and he is infinite power. He is infinite wisdom. And you realize that the being that you really are is a protean being. He plays all the parts. When you meet him, his fundamental being is love. But he also is power, and you see him as power. And he also is wisdom, and you see him as wisdom. And you don't have to ask any question as to who are you. It's so obvious that you stand in the presence of infinite power, or infinite wisdom, or infinite love. And you know the truth of these statements of Scripture. When it said God is love, you stand in the presence of God. Infinite love. And it's a man. Our scientists tell us of an impersonal force. This is not impersonal. This is very personal. God is a man. You are a man. God is no more. Your own humanity learn to adore. For everything here is God. And God being man, his every attribute is personified. So when you meet God as power, it's man. Meet him as wisdom, it's man. Meet him as love, it's man. So I tell you, this power of which I speak is right here, in your own wonderful human imagination. Don't turn to another. Don't turn to anything on the outside. It's all within. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And God is in his heaven. But if I turn within, where I turn to my own wonderful human imagination. And then I imagine what I want as real in my world, and persuade myself that it's true. To the degree that I am self-persuaded, it becomes true. It actually clothes itself in what the world calls reality. But the reality is not the visible thing they see. The reality is the unseen state, which I've imagined. You take the yoke, cut it down. It renews itself by the invisible state. The little lamb, you slay it with the knife. But the reality of that lamb, that form that is forever, is unseen by man. So here, in this wonderful world of ours, you have the power. You don't need financial power. That won't do it. You can't buy help. You can't buy respect, or you could buy it for a little while, but they don't really respect you. Let the money go, and they don't respect you. You don't need anything in the world of Caesar to buy what you want. Come, you're told, buy it, without price, without money. When you say buy it without price, well then you see it's not Caesar's coin that you use. You use your own wonderful human imagination. I'll give you this story. A friend of mine down south, he went to this barber shop. There were 4 barbers. He went to the boss barber first, and after about 3 visits, the barber couldn't take him this day, and he took the 4th one, the last year. He rather liked the way this man cut his hair. He got talking to him, and he realized the man loved barbering. He loved it. That's all my friend needed. You really love it? He said, I just love it. I wouldn't do anything else but cut hair. I just love it. And this is what my friend did. He imagined that man, the head of the shop. Didn't consult him, didn't consult the boss barber, didn't consult anyone. Just this one. He liked him. He imagined that he was the head of not this shop, but a shop. 6 weeks later, the barber decided, the owner, to unload the shop. How he raised the money, my friend never told me, but he bought the shop and moved from the 4th man, the low man on the totem pole, to the boss barber. In the last year, this one so loves it, he came here to the city. About 2 months ago, there was some meeting here, a contest among barbers. He brought 2 of his barbers with him. One was committed, he couldn't come that day. He brought 2. They took back, out of 5 prizes, they took back 4. He won 2, a first and a second, and 2 of his barbers won 2 seconds. He just entered another contest of the entire region, that is the 7 western states, and he won it, plus $1,000. The big plaque is now on his wall. All because of my friend's use of imagination. This man has a terrific control of this power. He's an advertising agent. About, I would say, the early part of this year, his boss said to him, this is our best account, and I don't want to lose it. But you know, the industry today is on the skids, and we must do something to pull it out. Well, he sat down, he said, now, if imagining creates reality, my only problem would be to face these men who believe themselves so wise and persuade them to let me go all out with my campaign from the premise that is already an accomplished fact. I can advertise that this thing is possible I've got to say it has been tried and proven in my ads. He worked out the entire thing. When these 20 men, all multimillionaires, for this is one of the huge industries of the world, this is an international industry. When he worked the entire thing out and presented it to these 20 men on the board, they thought themselves above all this. They were ethically above all things. Their moral code would not allow it. But my friend persuaded them that this is how a law operates, that imagining creates reality. So if you want something created, leave it to me. I will take your desire, I'll make it something that is already a fact. You voice it. The first quarter of this year, that industry not only arrested the motion down, turned it around, and their profits, not their gross, their profits the first quarter of this year was $75 million more than the first quarter of last year. 75 million more. I'm speaking of a net profit. Now these wise men with their wonderful ethical codes, they allow it. They saw the money in the bank. They saw all these things, and their so-called ethical moral codes went through the window because they saw another principle which they did not know. His competitor, and I saw the letter, his competitor in the advertising field wrote the boss, my friend's boss. He said, you know, I take my hat off to you. You use the principle that we have always used in our work, which was a darn lie. He never did it at all. He said, I know exactly what you did. He's trying to fish him out to find out what he's doing. And in this letter, he makes the claim that he actually knew and have always used it. And no one can work for our concern unless he's aware of this principle and lives by it. We aren't concerned about his religious background. He could be a Catholic, Protestant, Jew, or an atheist. But he has to live by this principle. When I saw that letter, the man was fishing. Just fishing to get the one who really conceived it to come forward and tell him what he did. Well, here is the same one in the barber shop. He goes there every Saturday morning by appointment, and the boss, Barber, waits for him right on the dot. Every Saturday he is right there for this chap. He loves him, and he took him from the low man on the totem pole and pushed him right out. He realized the man likes cutting hair. That's what he likes. He just loves it. All right, then be the best. If you like it, be the very best in the trade. Tell me what you want. Maybe you want to be a wife. Some keeping a home. What's wrong with that? My mother never went to work. She just had 10 children and lived at home with her full complement of servants. My sister has never worked, so she lives at home with her servants. My wife worked until I could afford to keep her. Then when I could afford to keep her, then I said, no, you stop. So she stopped. That's, well, almost 2 years after we got married. 2 years afterwards, I could afford to keep her. But now, from now on, you don't work. And so she hasn't gone back to work. So tell me what you want, and then let me persuade myself that what you really want, you have. To the degree that I am self-persuaded that you have it, you'll get it. If I can't persuade myself, well then, I have failed. But I haven't misspent the energy, because I tried it lovingly. So anytime you use your imagination lovingly on behalf of another, you use it wisely. Even if you didn't succeed in producing the results that you're seeking, you used it wisely. You will not then encounter the monster that I did. But the chances are, everyone in his unknowingness built that monster. For everyone has started to misuse the energy, and it forms itself into that horrible, horrible thing. Did you ever sit down and you wonder, where on earth did that thought come from? It wasn't a lovely thought. It came from the thing that you built, that misspent energy. A monstrous being that one day will meet you on the threshold and confront you, and you have to redeem it. Because Christ must be redeemed, and although he is the Redeemer, he also is one to be redeemed, because he's only energy, he's power. Infinite creative power is Christ, the power of God. So the power of which I speak is your own wonderful human imagination. That's God. So when I tell you that man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us and we in him, the eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. The divine body, Jesus, and we are his members. For everyone can imagine, therefore all are members of the one body.